Welcome to the cult. If you haven't already joined the cult, click those buttons. Today we're going to talk about money with Big Think. Let's get into it.
Every choice that you make comes with a trade-off. Money is an invitation to critical thinking. You can afford anything, but not everything. So if there's something that you value, whether it's travel, food, or a house, you can have that thing. You just can't have an endless series of ands. You might not be able to have that thing and something else, and something else, and something else. And that doesn't just apply to your money, that applies to your time, your focus, your energy, your attention, any limited resource. And life is the ultimate limited resource. So when you practice being better at managing your money, you practice being better at managing your life.
That makes a lot of sense. There's this old saying that once you know the way broadly, you can see it in all things. And that's exactly what she's trying to explain here.
My name is Paula Pant. I am the host of the Afford Anything podcast. I want to help you reach financial independence by making smarter decisions with your money. The mistake that I see a lot of people make when they start asking questions about how to manage their money is that oftentimes people will ask a question about a product or a tactic. So for example, they might say, should I use this app or should I invest in cryptocurrency?
Making money is something all of us have to do. I think the true value is in finding something you enjoy to do and make that your source of income. Life is always better when you're doing something you enjoy.
First principles thinking is stripping away everything and really getting to the root of something.
First principles thinking is so important to us as a collective to figure out what our incentives are and what we can use to drive those incentives on a global scale. We need to have a unifying ideal as a humanity on Earth in order to progress. And first principles thinking is the way to get there.
So you think about a tree. The tactics and the products are like the leaves of a tree. That's the most visible surface. So of course, it's what people might ask about first. But first, let's start with the roots of that tree. The roots of that tree are your values. It's that question of what matters most.
If we think from first principles, we can find the values in our own lives that give us purpose, not only to make money in a job that we don't enjoy, but to make money in a job that we do enjoy based on our personal values.
And then from those roots stem that trunk of the tree, which is your philosophy of life, the type of life that you want to lead. And from that philosophy, then your objective or your goals. How does that philosophy of living translate into specific goals? That's really that tree trunk.
We can build upon the basis of personal values and first principles with our philosophy. Not only is the life better making money aligned with your personal values, but also with your philosophy. We all need to be challenged on our ideas, but having a group of core individuals around you that not only challenge you, but help reinforce your personal values is a great way to enjoy your life.
From there, you go out into the branches of the tree, and they represent the strategy. Now that you know your philosophy of living, you know your goals, now you can come up with strategies for how to obtain those goals. And then once you have that strategy in place, then those leaves are the tactics and the products.
So once you know your morals and you know the philosophy behind your morals, it's easier to have a strategy to get a job that you actually enjoy. With this job, there can be many different facets of areas that you go into based on your strategy, your personal philosophy, your morals. But having these frameworks is a great way to help you find what you're looking for. From there, you can build upon your own business or build upon the business that you work at. The end goal, to look at what they do or sell, is not something you should focus on at the beginning. It's better to focus on the morals, the philosophy, the tactics, and then the product or service.
So if you're starting with the question about tactic or product, you've got a leaf in your hand, but you don't have that root system built yet. When personal finance is framed in the context of delayed gratification so that you can have more money when you're 75 years old, it's really hard to get excited about that.
delayed gratification as humans is hard in general. There's a famous experiment with marshmallows in children. A marshmallow is placed in front of the children. They are told by the examiner that when they leave the room, they can either eat the marshmallow or wait till the examiner gets back to get two marshmallows. They use this marshmallow study to predict future achievements in school and life. This marshmallow test was so important because it showed that if children had the ability to delay gratification at young ages, they would have more positive outcomes in adolescence and beyond.
But when we reframe that as financial independence and how taking better care of your money leads to this flourishing of freedom, of opportunity, of choice, that becomes much more enticing. FI is the point at which your potential passive income, money that comes to you when you're sleeping, typically through investments, is enough to cover your basic bills. And the reason that matters is because then endless options open up for you. You have the freedom to do whatever you want, whether that's to stay in your current profession, make a midlife career change, become a full time parent, or travel the world. Whatever choice you want to make, you're able to make that without having to sweat about how you're going to keep the lights on, how you're going to keep the fridge stocked.
In some circumstances, this is not a possibility, but if we all tend towards the side of freedom, we can make the world a different and better place. Being financially independent is the first steps towards freedom, and maybe later on, freedom can be transformed into an innate right of being a human.
The pursuit of FI is for everyone, but the first steps that you're going to take will differ depending on where you are in your journey. There are really only 3 steps to achieving financial independence: grow the gap, invest the gap, repeat. Grow the gap means to grow the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And there are only 2 ways to increase that gap: earn more or spend less, or both.
Many people who win the lottery overlook this simple fact. They start spending so much because they have so much money spontaneously. This leads to them blowing all their money and going bankrupt shortly after. You can either live like you've always been living with higher income, more money, same life, or you can have a higher income life with more extravagant things, but make your expenses a lot less.
If you don't make very much, like me when I was in my first job out of college making $21,000 a year, at that stage of life, your goal is to increase your income. If you're already making big dollars, but you have a spending problem, the low hanging fruit is to curb that spending problem and to address the root psychological issues that are leading to that spending problem.
The best way for me to look at overspending is needs versus wants. Do I really need this product or do I just want it?
Step 2 is to then invest that gap. My personal feeling is that everyone should aim to save and invest at least 20% of their income. And when I say save and invest, that includes making additional payments towards a debt above and beyond the minimum required, retirement savings, investments in an investment account. It includes building up your emergency fund. Start with a goal of saving 20%. And if you're nowhere close to that, increase your savings rate by 1% and do that every month or two. It will take a few years, but you will, over time, get to that 20% mark.
I know investment is a scary and tricky thing, but it's how people with money keep their money. Exponential growth, sitting on your money and not doing anything while it earns income, is a great way to look at life. It just takes a little bit of time, practice, or even a financial advisor to get where you want to be.
And then step 3 is repeat. This is a lifetime practice. This is not a quick hit or something that's going to happen overnight. Money management happens for life.
Like first principles, values, and philosophy, they can all be changed throughout life. The Japanese have this term called kaizen, which means constant improvement. You're not dropping any of these values, principles, philosophies throughout life. You're constantly changing them. And also with money, you're not dropping the way you looked, what you've learned about money. It's all about constant improvement day in and day out on your perspective and your allocation of money, time, and energy.
There has never been a point in history when the world has not been volatile. 100 years ago, there was also a pandemic going on, and there was a First World War. A decade later, the Great Depression. After that was World War II. After that, event after event after event that affected the entire globe. I came to FI because I was scared and anxious about the volatility in my life and the world.
Right now, we're in similar times. With all the wars going on throughout the entire world, it's not something for us to focus on as volatile. Yes, it is volatile, but our long term investment strategy shouldn't be dependent on volatility.
My response to that was to become obsessed with saving as much as I could because it allowed me to not be so scared of the future. It felt psychologically comforting to have these savings. Change is the nature of the world, the nature of time. And so, if you're looking out at the big global factors that are happening in the world today and you're feeling fear, embrace it and use that fear as motivation, as fuel to make wise decisions about how you spend your money, your time, your effort. That's how you build a life that's more intentional. And there's a lot of joy in that.
Life can be scary and wonderful, separately and together, up and down. The only thing constant is change, and what makes you a great person is how you adapt to that change. See you next time.